social distancing, also reassure them that it's for their own benefit and for those around them, especially older family members like their grandparents.
Share with them how you deal with your own stress so that they can learn how to cope from you. Limit your family's exposure to news coverage, as children may misinterpret what they hear and can become frightened about something they do not understand. Try to keep up with regular routines. Create a schedule for learning activities and fun, relaxing activities. Take breaks, get plenty of sleep, exercise, and eat well. Deal with the COVID-19 calmly and confidently, as children in part react based on what they see from the adults around them. This is a message from the Ministry of Health.
A pleasant good morning, viewers of ATN. This is the program Defining Your Health. I'm your host for this hour, Cameron Ozaeta, and with me we have two very intriguing guests from the department CRD, Community Rehabilitation Department. On my immediate right, we have Mr. Onando St. Bernard.
Hi.
And also on my far right, Mrs. Marcie Carballo.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to say welcome, gentlemen, sir and lady.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you so
It's a
much.
pleasure to have you today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure.
Amen. Okay, CRD. What exactly is CRD and what do they do? What is the charter?
Community Rehabilitation Department is one of the departments under the Ministry of Human Development.
Okay.
And we are tasked to work with minors.
Okay.
We refer to as juvenile.
Okay.
And those young persons are often young people who would come in conflict with the law,
Okay.
or those who are at risk, those who are first-time offenders. We work with young persons within schools who are deemed as uncontrollable, or within the communities. So Community Rehabilitation Department has a broad spectrum of tasks or mandate, and alongside that we also work with young people through providing counseling services. And that is why Mr. St. Bernard is here, who will be able to provide those updates to you as to what that looks like. But Community Rehabilitation Department, we focus a lot on prevention services. We focus also on rehabilitation, helping to curb behaviors for young persons who are struggling within the communities. And each one of those approaches that we would take is to help keep young people integrated within community.
Okay.
So we want young people to thrive in communities. We want them to get the best that they can from school, within their homes, entrepreneurial services, skills programs, whatever it takes to help a young people thrive.
Okay.
That's where we come in as a department to try to integrate them. And our programs help to bring awareness to communities, because a lot of the time the client that we work with are deemed as bad, rude, not capable of change,
Okay.
because they're the ones that are committing some of the crimes. They're also the ones who are displaying a lot of angry behaviors or in a lot of conflict within communities. But as we will talk about later in this discussion, is to how they reach that level. So we at Community Rehabilitation Department, we just try to find different avenues or means that could help these young people face some of the struggles that they are facing, but also see another way of going about dealing with life. And we can't do it with just the young person, so we also have to work with families. And that is where we hope with our collaboration with families and these clients that change will come.
Okay.
It is not always an easy task, but
Okay.
We do our very best.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your official office at the CRD department would be?
Our official office is located within the city at Lake Independence Boulevard. We just recently moved going into a year now, because
Yeah.
we moved last year, November. We were first on Freetown Road, upstairs of Venice, on second floor. But now we are located at the building that is classified as the hub, right? And our office is integrated in the hub. The hub is a program part of community rehabilitation. So it's one of the program aspect of our department.
Okay.
So that building was created and it was built with hope of integrating community, like young persons within the community to access programs.
Okay.
Right. So we are now located in that building. So it's basically like a one-stop shop kind of mechanism that we have tried to cooperate there,
Okay.
where you're able to find case management services. You're able to have the program aspect, where they can engage in different programs and support services, and then we have the counseling center. So all of that is located within that one building.
All right. So once again, the address is
Lake Independence Boulevard.
Lake Independence Boulevard.
Lake Independence Boulevard. I can't tell you the exact number, but
Okay.
it's off Chatham Boulevard.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. And the official description of your office, of your position in that department is?
Okay, I am a human development coordinator, so I have direct responsibility to the social workers within that department.
Okay. Human Development Coordinator.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's both of us. So it's myself and Miss Meralda who manage the unit, but Miss Meralda has direct responsibility for social workers in the district, and then I have direct responsibilities for those in Belize City. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. And Mr. St. Bernard,
Yes.
your title officially is?
St. Bernard.
Sorry, your office at the department?
So I manage the Community Counseling Center,
Okay.
and I'm the counseling coordinator.
Counseling coordinator.
Counseling
Okay.
coordinator.
And what does that coordinating entail?
Okay, so I manage 4 counselors,
Okay.
and our responsibility is to ensure that anybody who comes in for counseling services can receive it.
Okay.
We are also pushing out into the districts, which can be a bit difficult at times. But earlier this year, we were in PG, Stan Creek, and Cayo and Belize City. Right now, we're back to just Belize City and Bongpan and San Ignacio. But again, we will be pushing out into the different districts to provide the much needed service of counseling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So, what are some of the services that the department offers that people tend to access the most?
Okay. Well, for our unit, which is court and case management, we provide case management services, and that also comes in the forms of prevention services, right? A lot of times, parents or community members come to us for the prevention services. So they want us to help that young person to uplift themselves or better themselves before they reach the point of incarceration or committing a crime.
Or the crisis mode, yeah.
So a lot of the communities depend on us a lot with prevention. But like I always say, that is one of our areas that as much as we provide some sort of prevention services, it's also an area that is very difficult to maneuver because of the broad needs of a young person, right? And the limited resources that we may have. So right now, presently, within our unit, we have diversion. That's a prevention services whereby if a young person has come in conflict with the law in some way, they were in a fight or they stole something, they can be diverted from the juvenile justice system at the police level or at the court level. So if it's one of those minor offenses, police can say, you know what, instead of charging you, we're going to divert you to some programmatic areas whereby a diversion officer will be tasked to work with that family, and they will be given the chance to participate in programs that will help them to curb the behavior or develop a different mindset than what they had before, right? Or start to integrate needs that may have been lacking as to why they started to give the trouble or got in some minor scuffle. We also have SKIES. It's a life skills program that we provide life skills session to young persons, and that presently now linked to the diversion program, where that's one of the the participating programs that young persons would have to engage in, right? So if you are enrolled in the diversion program, one of the tasks that you would have to accomplish is participating in a 22-week life skills program that takes you through different topics to help a young person start rethinking differently. Um, Also to help them integrate families and how they can live healthier lives or better lives than what they're facing at this time. So those are some of the prevention programs that we have. And apart from that, we also have to do a lot of partnership with youth department, with maybe Ministry of Health, with different NGOs or other civil society organizations to help us accomplish some of those goals that we're trying to accomplish with a young person who comes into our department.
So you'll basically try to integrate with other ministries
Yes.
and departments.
Yes, that's very important.
It's very important because we're unable to accomplish a lot of our what we want to accomplish with young people in isolation. Young people come with so much need. Sometimes a young person might be giving trouble because they simply are not within the right environment. Like they're in an educational system, but they're not able to focus or participate at the level that they should because that's not their interest. And sometimes a skills program is what they really need to be in because they're not able to do academic. And that is something that I'm hoping that our country can reach to that level where we're able to have like a broad spectrum of interest areas for young people, because one of the things that we're seeing a lot, especially with our young men, that the expectation is that you will go to high school and you will perform well and you will achieve high grades and then you will come out as somebody working in the bank or something else. That's just one aspect for a young person. Different. We have the young boys that we would normally engage in. A lot of them are handy. They're very much skilled with their hands.
Vocational skills.
Vocational skills.
Yeah.
And they are always upset that there's very limited options for them to go deeper in that in those areas. We have some young people who are very much interested in sports, but to say access it on a professional level or on a structured level is not readily available to them.
Yeah.
You know, so these are some of the challenges that we would face when it comes to providing access or support services to young people. We might not have access to what they need, and what we do have access to might be very limited or might not be what they're in need of at the time.
And if I could add on that, with regards to the counseling, counseling is free. Under this department, it is free of cost for every Belizean in the country. And how this works with the adolescents is the fact that it's a service that's free. So they're able to access this service. Their parents and their families are also able to access this service because what we find with a lot of these adolescents is, yes, again, you know, people label them as bad and so on and so forth, but the reality is that these adolescents are trying to survive.
And that's critical.
That's critical.
Let's emphasize that these young people are trying to survive. They're in a survival mode.
Yes,
I
exactly.
believe that they've been placed in a corner.
Yes.
There's no other option but to behave this kind of way.
Yes.
And so now they're crying out for help because they're sinking.
Exactly. Exactly. They're sinking, but at the same time, they're still resilient. They're so strong. A lot of these adolescents that we come across are so very strong. We sit and we talk to them and we hear the complex trauma that they've gone through, but they're still able to go to school. They're still able to, you know, get their education. If I were, I think sometimes that if I was in their shoes, I don't know that I would be able to survive. So they're in this survival mode. They're trying to survive, and so the counseling then comes in to work on the trauma that they've gone through. If we have time, we could also talk about something called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Adverse
Childhood experiences. So we're talking about physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, abandonment. If a child grew up in a home with drug abuse, if a child grew up in a home with domestic violence, if a child grew up in a home with a parent who has mental illness, or a parent who went to jail.
Wow.
Studies need to be done in the country, but we see a lot of our adolescents going through many of these adverse childhood experiences. And what the research is saying is that this children who go through 4 or more are at a higher risk later on to experience mental health issues, to experience cancer, obesity, diabetes, and other ailments.
Yeah.
And so these are the things that we're seeing in this country. We see high rates of diabetes, we see high rates of hypertension, we see all of these things.
Okay.
And when you sit down with the individual and you go back into their history, you're seeing that they've gone through so much.
Exactly.
And we're happy as a department under the government that we're able to provide this free counseling services to these adolescents and to the broader society as well. Yes. So we partner very closely when it comes to counseling for these families. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So in the spectrum of the counseling, then, let's say a 12-year-old comes in with a home dysfunctioning family situation.
Yeah.
They've been exhibiting extreme behavior, right? And they've been recommended perhaps by the school counselor.
Yes.
To the CRD.
Yes.
Right. So what would be a typical program that you might set up?
So they'll come over and they have to come with their parents so that we can go through confidentiality, a document that they sign. Because that's paramount. We need to ensure that they can trust us by understanding that we will be confidential with their information and we will not share it.
Okay, so the parent or the guardian would have to sign?
Yes, for an adolescent, yes. Okay. And from there, we have our intakes, our clinical intakes that we do to help us better understand what are the areas that we should be looking at. And then we would go into the counseling from that angle. And in many situations, we are doing grief and loss, cognitive behavioral therapy, and many other forms of therapy, depending on what the client needs.
Okay.
What's also very important here is that in the confidentiality agreement, it's understood that if the client raises sexual abuse, any type of abuse, wanting to harm themselves or harm somebody else, we let them know from the very beginning that we are mandated to report this. So that's where we are connected to CRD. We are also connected to Human Development, the Department of Human Development, Human Services.
So if this young man comes in, or the young lady, sorry, with her wrist caught flashed or something, would that be reported immediately, or you try to work with her?
So we would look at the level of the situation, where it may mean that we have to refer the client to KHMH immediately, or if it is a previous attempt, we would have to assess if there is intent to do it again right now.
Okay. Immediate danger.
Sorry?
Immediate danger, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So we would have to assess all of that before we make a decision as to what we're going to do.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Now, as a church organization, which ATN basically is, we're trying to address these health issues for broader society from a spiritual perspective. So, in the business of trying to save these individuals, right before they reach a point of crisis, do you all provide any proactive or preventative services aimed more at advocacy in that sense?
We do advocate as best as we can for each young person that we come in contact with. From the assessment that we do, like I said, that gives us insight as to what the needs are. And based upon what the needs are, that's how we're able to tailor a plan to work with this family, the client and the family. And if we lack the resources, then we try to go out and see where we can find those needs and advocate for those clients to get those resources, right? I like that you mentioned regarding the churches. That is a crucial role in supporting us with young persons. And that could come in the form of mentorship. Mentorship has been an area in which we have been lacking for some time across country, I would say. Just having persons coming in and stepping in where you don't have those role models is something that can save a young person life. And I do believe that churches can play that role with young people in stepping in as mentors, as buffers to some of the societal issues that they come in conflict with. Because right now we see a lot of families struggling just to survive when it comes to food, and they do take illegal routes to survive.
Exactly.
So how can communities, and the church is a community, how can communities come together and help provide those buffers for families that are in need? that is where I would like to see more of that happening. And I do believe that we play a crucial role as social workers in trying to advocate for that
Okay.
and trying to integrate ourselves and our clients in those communities to
Okay.
help get that going.
Well, I'd like to say right off the bat that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is here, ready and available
Yes.
to be a part of this rehabilitation.
Because I think what's so very important is this is to understand that even though a child, an adolescent has gone through so much trauma or negative experiences, having one person in their life,
Okay.
just one person who believes in them, who supports them,
Yeah.
who is there for the long haul,
Okay.
can help that child to become whatever they want to become in this world. Just one person. That's all they need.
So
And
many
it is-
times those extreme behavioral symptoms is a cry of saying, I don't believe that there's anybody in my corner but me.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Because again, a lot of these kids come from families that the parents, because if you go back to something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We might be in the office with a parent and we're saying to the parent that, X, Y, and Z needs to be done. But what we also understand is that the basic need of food, light, water, shelter, for themselves and for their child is needed. So we have to help provide that need for them, because if we can't provide that basic need for them, they won't be able to think higher to the next level of safety, providing love to their children, so having their own self-esteem, and then becoming what they want to become. So that's why, again, partnership is so very important. So if we're able to provide the basic needs for the child, right? Help them with food and water and whatnot, while empowering them to get a job to look after themselves.
Right.
If the church now could come in and say, I'm going to create a safe space for these adolescents. So I don't know if you're based here in Ladyville.
Yeah, we have a church. The church
You're-
is here in
you're-
Ladyville.
Right. So here in Ladyville, because there's crime here in Ladyville
Oh
as well.
man, tell me about it. I keep telling people, Ladyville is becoming the new Belize City.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. So what, as a church, can you do to create that safe space for these adolescents?
Okay.
Can you provide meals for these adolescents so that they don't have to go into survival mode to figure out how am I going to get
My next meal.
a next meal, right? Because the other powers that be, if you will,
Yeah.
will provide that to them. But then in providing that false love to them, they want something back. So then the
Exactly.
child now has to go and do something that's going to re-traumatize them, and the cycle continues.
Because people hold, yeah.
Right. So with the mentorship, who in your church can help to mentor children?
Okay.
Can your church create that safe space? Can your church show that love to these adolescents and their parents, and not be judgmental towards them, so that they feel like they have a safe space, right? So that if they have that safe space, then they can think about other things that they need to work on for the betterment of themselves and their children.
Excellent. So that's based on Maslow's
Hierarchy of needs.
hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, and indeed, the Seventh-day Adventist Church there's a youth department in the church, right, that has specifically targets programs, tailored programs to the needs of the youth. We have the Sabbath School program, right, which is a more general form, but still, in the same line. So the Seventh-day Adventist Church is definitely on track with that.
That's good. That's really
So we
good.
would really like to become much more active, proactive in that regard, no? Working with you, right? Anything else, Miss Marcie? Maybe you want to add?
Like, I'm here just reflecting on all of these things, because as much as we're talking about what can be provided, I think the advocacy, going back to what you shared, advocacy can come from anywhere in the community.
Yes.
Like, a lot of time, people would sit and watch young people struggling or seeing them getting hurt and not say anything,
Right.
or because that's not my situation. I have my
Yes.
own issues.
Yes,
I am going through my own struggles. So, let me just bypass this.
Yeah.
And for me, this is where I want to really encourage communities to, if we don't do this together,
Okay.
then we will forever be facing these issues in isolation and suffering in isolation. So how can we come together and really face the issues with the young people? How can we partner together and be a support to each other? Like, I really know that people are suffering in silos. Like, they're really suffering in their own corners
Yeah.
because they feel like they can't trust or they can't engage other people.
Yeah.
But like, I'm really pleading to society.
Okay.
How can we come to that place where we're able to integrate and help each other out and not watch a young person get
Yes.
hurt and not say anything.
Right.
There are different ways in which we can report issues that are happening to young persons from their small.
Okay.
Because Community Rehabilitation Department engage a young person at the age of 12,
Okay.
usually. But we have other departments within our ministry that engage children from birth.
Mm.
And what we see a lot of time when they reach our department is that a lot of the issues that they have faced from birth were ignored or were not
Not addressed.
reported or
Yeah.
were not alerted or were not addressed, and now we get them when they're at the point of acting out
Yes.
from all of these
All the-
issues that they have faced
Yeah.
as a young
The mountain.
as a young child.
Yeah.
So how can we as communities take these things serious when it comes to our children, helping our kids get the best care from birth so that they can become productive citizens in society? So if
Yeah.
we see children suffering in
Uh-huh.
communities, how can we advocate to get them the help that they need so that they don't reach 12, 13 and start acting out because of the issues that they
Preventative measures as opposed to curing
Yes,
measures.
right.
Crisis management. Uh-huh.
Because as you're saying, Miss Marcie, we are all as a country, as a nation, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
If somebody is sitting watching the news and thinking that, oh, that's not going to happen to me or my family, you are sadly mistaken
Yeah.
as it continues to spread and spread and
Exactly.
spread.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down also to a place of having compassion
Yeah.
for others,
Exactly.
understanding that we're all human and we all hurt, we all suffer, and hurt people.
For example,
right?
on Sunday, I believe it was, the village where I live in Biscayne, the village councillor came to my house, the chairman, and he brought a group of young people. And I said, hey, strange visit. I said, what's the nature of the visit? We're trying to build a basketball court
Oh,
because there's
Excellent.
none in the village.
awesome.
Excellent.
And everybody who needs to go to Gardenia. So that's an excellent initiative.
Yeah.
How
Excellent.
can I help? Well, if you could contribute money, or maybe you have a weed eater to help us cut the
Yeah.
lot. I say, hey, I have a weed eater.
Yes.
So this kind of coordination, like you
Yeah.
said, that integral synergy needs
Yeah.
to be
Yes.
up and
Exactly.
And
coming. Uh-huh.
that is very crucial in a bit, because while we might say me doing this right now doesn't do anything for me, it has a long-term
Impact.
impact or benefit.
Ramifications, yeah.
Because what we sow right now, we
We're
will
gonna
be
reap.
able to reap.
We are
in the-
reaping today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're reaping today what
Today.
was sowed in the past.
Exactly.
Yes.
So how can we change that trajectory now and start sowing right things, like good things and right seeds to make
Yeah.
we get what productive
Harvest.
future for our kids or our young people right
Exactly.
now.
If I could give an example, there was an individual in the business community who brought one of her workers.
Mhm.
And I looked at that and I thought to myself that was excellent. That the owner, she had no connection to this client any at all,
Mhm.
except for the fact that the client is her employee.
Okay.
But she took the time out to interact and talk and listen. And from that, she drove her employee to the counseling center
Wow.
for services.
Wow.
And because of that, we've been able to help him to get to where he needs to be and he wants to be. And so then that again is this community also doing their part
Excellent.
in understanding that if they do more community work,
Mhm.
that is going to help the kids and the families to have that safe space again and have that place for recreation to be kids,
Mhm. Exactly.
as opposed to the kids being in these very adult negative situations. So the business community, everybody, the other ministries, as from the Ministry of Human Development, we need the other ministries to do their
be
parts as well.
Yeah.
We need education, health, security, everything to be playing. So all of us have to be working
It
together.
has to be a collaborative effort.
Right. If we are fragmented, it's going to be very difficult. You're right.
Yeah.
And I think,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Not to say that we won't push, because
Yeah.
we love our jobs and
Yeah.
that's why we're here.
And you love the people you serve.
And we love the people we serve, despite the resources being cut and all these things. We still
Okay.
push
Okay.
to the best of our ability.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so yes, we need. It's like my plea. If I'm looking at the camera, I'm saying
Yeah.
other ministries, business community, we need the help.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Well, I detect a passion when you all are speaking, and that really warms my heart. I say praise God for that. Well, viewers, we want to encourage you to stay tuned with us. We will be taking a break at this point, and we invite you to join us again in the second segment. If you have questions, please put them in the comment section. And if you're on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll be glad to address those issues when we come back. Thank you.
In the heart of Americas stands the Inter-American Division. It is comprised of all of Central America, the northern parts of South America, and the islands of the Caribbean Sea. What a great diversity fills each corner of this region. Flora, fauna, culture. The strength of our church in this territory is its 3,681,066 members filled with faith, hope, and courage. Our doors are always open. Meeting in 23,319 churches and congregations, large, small, outdoors, or online. It's amazing to know that God is present in each one of them. The Inter-American Division is comprised of 24 unions, divided into 156 local conferences. We spread the message through various means, including the 35 hospitals and clinics across the territory. In its 14 universities, many young people are trained daily to serve God in different professional fields. One theological seminar prepares pastors to serve the church membership and preach the gospel across Inter-America. This is a territory with millions of school-aged children. 790 primary and secondary schools deliver Adventist Christian education to 145,596 students through the dedicated labor of 9,879 teachers committed to serving God and humanity. 9 centers of influence work with creative ideas of evangelism to target various people groups. The gospel also travels by air and the internet. Messages of hope are shared 24/7 through television programs produced in 3 languages and through broadcast by more than 90 radio stations. The Inter-American Division is this and more. Every day, our church works to preach the gospel to more than 307 million residents across its territory.
Why should you wear your mask? To protect myself. My friends. My family and others. I wear my mask because I love my grandparents. With so many reasons to wear a mask, we continue to advise persons to wear a face mask properly, covering both nose and mouth. Together, we can keep Belize COVID-19 safe.
Putting God first can be difficult. What can we learn from Daniel that will help us put God first in our lives today? Daniel was a young man when he was taken into captivity to Babylon, the capital of the greatest empire the world had ever seen. King Nebuchadnezzar always took the best and brightest young men as captives from the many nations he conquered. He would then teach them the Babylonian science and religion, knowing that they would significantly contribute to the expansion of his kingdom. 10,000 young people were taken along with Daniel, and from them, the best of the best were sent to the palace. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were some of these. Their first test was with food. In fact, since the time of Eden, God's people have been tested with food. Food has been a representation of either devotion to God or rejection of His word. But in their case, putting God first could have cost them all the privileges afforded them, or worse, they could lose their lives. However, these young men decided to put God first, no matter what happened. They couldn't be forced or bribed to do otherwise. Faithfulness with their diets not only gave them superior physical strength, but, most importantly, greater mental and spiritual discernment. So, it was not by chance that they became the top students in the Babylon University. Later, Daniel would be put in charge of all other scientists, while his 3 friends would eventually become the top leaders of Babylon's capital city. All this because they decided to put God first. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were willing to be burnt alive rather than compromise. They said, "If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us. But even if he does not, we want you to know, Your Majesty, we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." As an older man, Daniel would rather be thrown into a den of lions than to stop praying first thing in the morning. But God came through again, and Daniel lived to praise him and become the prime minister of Babylon. Daniel put God first. His example compels us to do the same. As the deacons collect the tithe and promise, we are challenged to put God first.
Welcome back, viewers. This is the program Defining Your Health. I'm your host, Cameron Ozaeta. And here with me in studios is Mr. Onando St. Bernard and Mrs. Marcie Carballo. Welcome back, folks. And we would like to, during the second segment, look at perhaps some case studies and examples of how the department has been effectively making a difference in local communities across Belize. By way of jump starting, how has COVID-19 affected the charter of the department?
I think it stagnated us a bit when it comes to our core, focusing on our core. Because if you're not familiar with our ministry, when COVID hit, our ministry went into disaster relief mode or relief mode. That's what we classify it as, relief mode. And we had to lead the food assistance program
Right.
during this COVID-19 lockdown. So our officers, everybody from within the ministry, then had to stop focusing on clients and now focus on getting the people of Belize and clients assessed to see if they qualified for food assistance. Right after we went into that mode in the earlier part of 2020, down on into 2020, the flood took place. And our ministry again had to work flood relief. So again, taking us from our core of doing one-on-one visits with clients or family support, right? So our focus definitely shifted, and I believe it took a toll on our clients because they were not able to get the usual services that they would have gotten, and it also threw us into an influx of issues that may have been adding up, and then now we are trying to stabilize at this point, right? Because we weren't able to address it over the long period that over a time period that we would normally have to address cases. So COVID really hit us hard.
Yeah, I can imagine.
When it comes to workload and quality of work for our clients that we serve. Right? It put the ministry in a very tough position, but now we are trying to regulate and we're trying to get back to our focus, to our core. It has been very challenging. I must say it has not been easy because even our workers are feeling the pressure of dealing with themselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, while still trying to help clients do the same. And that has been where we have seen the biggest challenge for workers and clients.
And if I could just add to that, with the flood relief that we did, we had to go out there into the communities.
Just to pause there, were you all, was the department the one most directly involved with that relief?
Yes.
Wow.
For the food assistance program,
Food
during
assistance
COVID-19 and the flood relief.
We were out there.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground, right? And I have to really praise the staff at the whole ministry.
How many staff would that look like?
I think it's about 300 and odd,
Whoa.
if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
It went down from 400, if I'm not mistaken. But I really have to say that our staff, they are troopers. Because again, going from working with our clients to working FAP for COVID-19, then going right into flood relief, and then going back into our regular work. And in the midst of it, with having to go out there, we did all the precautions that we could do. but unfortunately, some of our staff still came down with COVID-19.
Wow, okay.
And so, again, I praise our staff. They're excellent. Again, the passion is there, and that's why we have to look after them. We have to
Most definitely.
treat our staff.
And I just want to say kudos to them too. I mean, they're doing a work that is second to none.
Yes. The hope, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is that the disaster relief that we do gets placed with a different organization or ministry, so that we can remain focused on our core, which is the clients. Because the same thing with counseling as with CRD, we had to stop for a while, especially with the flood relief and COVID-19 food assistance program as well. So the counseling, which is supposed to be ongoing was
put on pause. Yeah.
Right, and that takes its own toll on our clients as well. Apart from that, during COVID-19, we did teletherapy to the best of our ability to reach those clients that we needed to ensure we helped. Because if we didn't, then definitely something horrible could have happened.
So you're saying that this relief effort initiative was kind of redirected from your department?
We're hoping that in the future
Okay,
it will be. I think our leaders at the help of the ministry are working on it.
Okay. All right. Now, what do you believe young people could do as a part of this rehab to maybe help themselves, if we could actually use that phrase, in terms of getting back up on their feet, and at least after they've begun to receive counseling, right? And they're being redirected. What are some of the ways, perhaps, that they could?
Well, definitely, if they've started the counseling, it's for us to, for some cases, to stay in touch.
Okay.
What we would do in counseling is that we would work with them for a period of time, teaching them different coping mechanisms, different ways of how to deal with their thinking and their feelings, and so on and so forth.
A typical time period might be like how long?
It depends. It depends on the client. Usually, on our brochure, it says 6 to 8 sessions. However, the reality is that, and something that we were in a training for last week, is the fact that for the amount of years that you've gone through trauma, it's the same amount of years that you will have to work on that individual.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
So
it's a lot of work. Significant.
It's a lot of, right.
Oh.
But it's still a case-by-case situation, because you have some individuals who are very resilient, who have that support mechanism. And because they have that support mechanism, they're able to maybe do a little bit better than others who don't have that support mechanism.
Or back a little quicker.
Exactly. And that's why I go back to the importance of, in every person's life, it's important that they have at least one person who is there for them. If they have that one person, they're going to flourish. Right?
Okay. So, and what kind of initiatives do you all put forward in terms of getting the parents to come on board?
I smirk at that, because that's where I think we need to put more work in. And I'm really hoping that parents see the benefit of their child being engaged with our department.
Okay.
Sometimes it comes across like it's more of a disjointed partnership when we're working with clients, and it becomes more the child needs the help and not us.
Because I think from a previous discussion, we had brought up something, the fact that many times the parents have issues that they need to address, their own trauma.
Yes.
But a lot of time the parents don't come alongside us to work as a team. We do have some very good parents who really come and work with us, but we have a lot of times parents who are so focused on the survival, getting income into the home, and you can't fault them for that,
Yeah.
But we do have to. We try to make parents understand that, yes, we understand that income needs to come in, but if it's either a child or,
It's like you're saying, I don't have time for the child because I need to be out there.
We need to eat, we need to, and I do understand the conflict in that for a parent to say, you know what, either I go find the money to feed my child, or I come to your program and then I lose income. It's a very conflicting position. But what tends to happen a lot of the time when we find parents in these tough positions, the child end up being sacrificed in a time. So we are engaging the child, but then the parent just keep on going in this mode, and then there's no middle ground as to how they can help regulate the child, because then we become parents.
Yes.
but we're not the
Right.
one living in the home with your child. So
So
And
if parent X would say, okay, if I come to this counseling session or whatever, I will lose this my income for this
yes,
period. What would be your response to that?
so what we try to do to the best of our ability is that we sometimes will try to work outside of the regular 8 to 5 hours.
yes,
Mm,
We will try to, if you can come in, say 6:30 or maybe
okay.
more 7 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
we would meet you there.
Mm,
You could come to our office. We'd meet you there. We'll do the session early in the morning.
okay.
Sometimes after work, we do understand that, you know what, they have to work. They have to look after themselves and their family. So then we would provide the service of working past
Outside regular.
past 5.
Yeah.
Right. So to try and accommodate as best as possible. Or we even work through lunch.
Wow.
Right. So that we can accommodate as best as we can, following the government regulations and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
we also have public assistance whereby we try to negotiate. If we're doing this with the family and we're seeing that we're taking away their time from providing income, we would try to say, all right, we're going to provide you with 3 months grocery basket,
Wow. Okay.
right?
Okay.
If you work with us on this plan as to get these services with your child or integrate with your child throughout this time period. So we try to find some common grounds with the resources that we have access
Okay.
to try to get families to come alongside us to work with their child.
Yes.
Sometimes it's very difficult because
Yeah.
sometimes parents are at the point where they really are very hopeless, and to ignite hope in them sometimes become a task in itself.
Okay.
But I do believe if we keep at it, especially with community support, that we can reach those goals that we're trying to reach.
Community support. Uh-huh.
And we can reach that because, again, with working with us as a social worker, as a counselor, with working with our clients, what is most important, again, is the relationship that we build with the
Relationship with the client.
Yes, that is most important because they say that you could learn however many clinical therapies and whatever the literature says in social work and whatnot. But you can't apply it if you don't have that relationship with the clients. You have
Okay.
to have that trust and that relationship with the client so that they can work with you,
Okay.
with us in getting them to the place that they want to be at.
So they need to get to the point where their affective domain is positively opened up, as it were, so they can,
Yes.
man, I find I'm being blessed, I'm being benefited by this. And I love what I'm getting here.
Yes.
And these are people that care for me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And one more thing that's very important is understanding that the ministry is, I know that in the media, it may seem as if the ministry is about making people dependent, but our position, our role is to help get our clients become empowered, so that they can live their lives without us.
Yeah.
Right? We step in, we assist, and then we come out.
Yes.
That's the level of Maslow that would be what, self-actualization?
So,
Yes.
yes, where they reach that self-actualization to become and do whatever it is that they want to do.
Okay.
And I think it's an approach that every community organization should take to not get people dependent on them. And I'm hoping that our government moves away from that kind of approach of
Yeah.
creating more dependency rather than helping people to
Empowered.
empower themselves. Because
Yes.
we as Belizeans, we need to reach a point where we're able to stand on our own and help. But that has to come with giving us the right tools to
Tools to work
utilize. So education plays a huge role.
Exactly.
Awareness, community
Exactly.
awareness. So like
Okay.
these shows, like what you guys are doing, I really applaud you because it
Okay.
helps to build knowledge.
Yes.
It helps to build capacity in
Community
people
awareness.
so that they
Awareness.
can go out and access things for themselves. But when people lack knowledge, they more have to be clutching on to something else.
And holding out a bag.
Exactly.
Plate, yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
as much as we can get out there and create awareness and give people the tools that they need to help themselves, I think we're going to be better off.
Amen. Amen. Excellent. Okay, now can you share with us a case study? Maybe with generalities, no, nothing specific. Examples of how these cases are handled.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the maybe we could talk about some of the signs that would be picked
Okay,
up.
right.
That before they come to us. So maybe we could talk about some of the things that
Yeah, okay. So again, this goes back to why it's important that a child has that support. A child is connected to somebody. Because for the signs and the symptoms to be seen, You need that person, that adult who can who's looking at that child who they're engaged with on a daily basis, who can begin to see the different things that are happening. So the telltale sign is that you have a child, you know this child to behave in a certain way, and then all of a sudden you start seeing the child behaving in a different way. Maybe they might become withdrawn, right? And they may be very bubbly and bright and talkative and whatnot, but then all of a sudden they've withdrawn. They're quiet. So then you, as a person who's invested in this child, you see that, right? You also might see an individual who is exploding every minute, right?
Okay.
All of a sudden, everything is getting under their skin,
Something is going right, yeah.
Right, right. And something to also mention here is that anger is not just anger. Sometimes it's also depression. Sometimes they're also depressed, right? Because of different things going on, so on and so forth. A change in how they eat, a change in their sleeping patterns. All these things are signs, right, that you can pick up on.
Okay.
Because again, a child having that close bond, that close relationship with an adult, that adult therefore will see these different things happening.
Yeah.
And that's where the adult then can reach out to the child and try to talk to the child to see what's going on, right?
Okay.
And either they're able to have the conversation and it works out fine, or they may see that they need some help, where they need to have bring them into counseling, into CRD to provide some extra assistance. So a parent may have a child, yes, you just see the child always with these outbursts and they're just blowing up and they're leaving the house and they're going to hang out with whoever on the street and whatnot, and then that's where the parent might bring the child into CRD to see the social workers, Miss Marcie, because again you're trying to do the preventative work, so that they don't get caught up in the negative crowd to do something wrong. And so then that's where they will put a counselor onto the individual to go into the home, to do a home assessment, to speak with the parents, to speak with, the community members as well, whoever is close to the child, teachers, to see what's happening, what's going on, what's the difference, when did this behavior start, so on and so forth. And then this is also where they would be connected to us, where they will say that, okay, maybe they found out something that did happen to the child, and they see that definitely the child needs some counseling support. We may also see that there are parenting issues as well, where the parents, they need parenting classes, which the ministry provides as well. And again, something with the parents, just to say to parents out there, is that we are not about judging anybody.
No.
We understand the constraints and the frustrations and things like that. We're here to assist them, to empower them so that they could be the parents for their children.
Excellent.
So, because I think from my time working in the ministry, I've seen that parents do feel embarrassed. They do feel a way, in coming into the ministry for help and assistance. And for us, we understand that. And so therefore, we're never at a place of judging. We want to let them know that it's a safe space for you to come and open up and talk to us. So, because once they talk to us, we then know what can be done.
What can be done?
Yes. I don't know if you have anything that you'd like to add. That.
Like a typical, well, not typical, but a case would be whereby a young person being raised in a very dysfunctional home, a lot of arguments in communities where they see a lot of violence, and they reach the age of 12 or 13, and going through teenage years, you have all these hormonal ranges going on, and oftentimes it's at those ages that we see kids start acting out or taking part in different illegal activities. So they're at that age, they ended up committing a crime, whether they by joining the gang and they were issued with a weapon and say, all right, you go and do this. When we get those kids in to our system, because now they have acquired a charge. So once they're going through the court system, a social worker is attached to them. And that social worker then start to assess why this child has reached this point. And oftentimes, when we get into the back history, we see all of these things that Mr. St. Bernard had highlighted, where they were exposed to extensive violence, like they witnessed domestic violence in their home, or they themselves were beaten in those violent manners.
The adverse childhood experience.
Yes. And they don't have those avenues to speak out or to even express emotion, because emotion is not to be expressed, So they're silent, and then when they reach these ages and they're embraced by the gangs or other community negative community groups
Influences, yeah.
that influence it, they feel empowered, and then they start doing all of these negative things because now they have a voice.
Yeah.
Now they are able to do and act out how they want because this is my safe zone. But
Yeah.
that then
Right.
trickles
It's a
into
distorted reality. Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Right. Yes.
So when we start working with young persons like that, it sometimes is a bit challenging. Sometimes we can only do so much because of what all has happened. Sometimes even our intervention doesn't help to get them
Yeah.
out because of how community is structured.
Like the frontal lobe has been grossly affected, yeah.
Yes. Yes. Scientifically, that's
Yeah.
exactly what happens. They.
So
Yeah.
a lot of time we do put a lot of resources into these young persons, and it sometimes doesn't change the behavior because they're still in the environment. There's still amount of same people that are influenced
Yeah.
in them right. And this one person here who is advocating for me to do better, I see it, I acknowledge it, I appreciate it, but that still doesn't take me out of my reality.
Okay.
It still doesn't erase my experiences, which then still keeps me in this environment
Toxic
of doing
environment.
exactly.
So then at what point would CRD draw the line perhaps and say, okay, you need to be removed from this environment?
At times we can't even do that
Wow.
because there's no resources, there's no avenue to put the child.
Okay.
Sometimes the aspect is at the hostel, but hostel is not somewhere to keep a young person. It should be very short and concise with the rehabilitation that occurs there.
It's a last resort.
It
Last
should be
resort.
on the last resort.
I want to be the recommended time period to be in that hostel environment.
For as short as possible.
Short as possible.
Short as possible.
As short as
Wow.
possible.
Short as possible.
Wow.
Yes. The longer a child remains at youth hostel, it becomes more complicated. Let's say that. It becomes more complicated. And so, yes, one thing that I wanted to add, though, is that with the clients in these communities, one, again, that's where we need partnership for the country to create safe communities. We need the powers that be in the country to create safe environments for the children.
Okay, so we hear that, guys. We need to create safe communities. Okay.
Right, because if the communities are not safe, the adverse childhood experiences will explode.
Yeah.
With the child leading again to all types of physical health issues and also mental health issues.
And creating very unsafe environment for us within our country.
Yeah.
So,
but one last thing to add with kids is that we are there for them.
Yeah.
So we will work with them, and then we understand too that they will have relapses. They will go back. They'll backslide. But when they're ready to try again, we will be there
You'll
to
be there
try
for them.
again, however many times. Because what the research also shows is that sometimes kids have to go through many experiences, negative situations before they're ready to change.
To change.
That they have come to this place where I want something different now. I don't want to continue this thing.
Yeah.
And that's why we remain working with them until we get to that place. And sometimes we get to that place and sometimes we don't get to that place.
Okay.
So it's also to say that we're not miracle workers.
Okay.
But we are committed. We're committed
Excellent.
to working with the kids.
Well, we would like to wrap up at this time. And any final words, Miss Marcie?
yeah.
What would you like to say to our viewers today?
I really just want to encourage everybody to really put your heart into engaging with kids. Children are the future, and if we don't do anything about it, I don't know where we're going to be some years from now. So, however way you can invest in a child by creating safe spaces or even advocating on their behalf or being a mentor, whatever it is that you can do for a young person or a child that helps get them to a place of safety, stability, or being able to grow in safe environment, do that. Because if we invest that now, then we will be able to see a better return in the future for us and for our country.
Okay. And you, Mr. Onando?
Yes. I guess what I would like to say to Belize, to the community, is let's not continue to look at our young children as bad. Let's change the perspective to see and understand that hurt people.
Okay.
Right? So if somebody's hurting, it's because they're hurt themselves and they need the help and the support. And therefore, we should be compassionate towards them and be that person to connect with them and be that support to them to the best of our ability. So that's what I'd like to.
Excellent. Well, we want to thank you both from CRD for being with us, joining us today. Mrs. Marcie, Mr. Onando.
Thank you too.
It was a privilege having you all, and we've been enriched in terms of what we can do as a community to help to train our young people, right? And bring about that rehab that may be necessary. Well, for our viewers, we want to say thanks for joining us today. This has been the program Defining Your Health. I'm your host, Cameron Ozaeta. We invite you to join us next week at the same time, 10 o'clock, for another in the series. May God bless you and have a good day.